This is exactly the kind of horror movie I love. Yeah, this is a horror film. It's great.
He was a sociopath, completely in control. He said that wherever I went, he would walk right up to me, and I wouldn't be able to see him. Show yourself! Come on! There you are.
Alright, so Invisible Man. Was it good? Was it bad? Could you see the damn thing? Yeah, it was great. I honestly feel that The Invisible Man is a great horror flick. And I'll tell you why. Because it has the perfect combination of that stereotypical cliche Conjuring kind of movies, but mixed in with the drama and tension of other films such as Hereditary and Midsommar and all that. It takes the well-acted thoughts of those movies and mix it in with the very cliches and tropes that you find in most horror films. Honestly, I didn't want to see this movie when it came out. When it released the trailer, I didn't want to see it. I was like, no, it looks like trash. It's not going to be good at all. And then I took the chance and I saw the reviews and I saw everyone that they were saying it was great, it was good, and I was like, I have to see it for myself. And when I saw it, I was blown away. I'm not going to say that it is actually like, a masterpiece in horror, but it does have such a compelling story and such good acting, and you actually care for the characters. Yes, you actually care for them. And that's the thing, especially with Elisabeth Moss's performance. It's very out there. She goes all the way. Elisabeth Moss, you didn't really have to go that far, but she does a total, 10 out of 10 in performance against everybody else in the film. Everyone else in the film seems like they're doing maybe a 7 to an 8 of a performance, but Elisabeth Moss, you're doing God's work in Hollywood, especially in female leads. I mean, it was so good, and I really like the aspect of the whole thing. Now, it comes as no surprise that you aren't going to see anything really in this film. The guy's invisible. It's called The Invisible Man for a reason. So your antagonist is invisible throughout the entire film. And it's so great. It's like Hollywood remembered. Oh yeah, we're if you don't show, it becomes scarier. And there's a lot of that in the movie. And I gotta give it up to the camera work, to the directing in the film, because there are scenes, literal scenes, where the camera will pan to an empty space, and it'll be like an empty chair, and you'll see nothing. But you have this feeling, and the music and the score that goes in. You start to think, maybe there is someone in that chair. They won't tell you. Elisabeth Moss doesn't tell you up front that there's someone in that chair, but you feel like there is because the camera and the movie itself is making you feel that way. And then it starts getting psychological in there, and you start to think, oh shit, what if he's in this entire movie and we, as the audience, don't even know that? There's even times in this film where the sound design is so great, the sound effects, because if you listen carefully, and I understand why it was in XD showings and in premiere showings, because there is a lot of times where you'll see Elisabeth Moss or you'll see another character, an actual character, and you'll notice that in the background there's noises. And I personally thought that I was like, oh, this is my theater just being shitty. But no, it was actually the movie. There are little, clacks and creaks and stuff like that. You're like, he's here. He has to be in the room because I'm not hearing things, right? So all in all, this movie is good. It's great. It's now one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I really like the concept of The Invisible Man. Yes, it was based off of H.G. Wells' book, and it does respect the source material, but at the same time, it goes on with its own thing, and that's what I really enjoyed. So I'm saying this now. This is a high recommend from the higher volume. If you haven't seen it, go out and see this movie, because honestly, you'll have a good time. I just want to be upfront with you, though. There are no real jump scares. So if you're expecting that Conjuring kind of sense of a movie where it's the nun going, You know, you're not going to get that. Instead, it's very calming and, well, it's tense, but, you know, the sound design and everything, it builds up in tension. And I think that's the best part about this film, is that the tension just builds and builds and builds. It reminded me of Jaws. It reminded me of those old movies that actually took its time, like Alien, to actually show the thing that's happening. And I want to say that you don't actually see the actual Invisible Man till much later in the film, which I was like, that's what Hollywood needs to do now. That's what Hollywood needs to get back on, because that is exactly what made this film great. Just two negatives, though. The score and the cinematography, I understand they were on a very low budget. This movie was made on $7 million, guys. It's $7 million, so I understand. But the score was very stereotypical Inception, the boom, boom, you know, and then the cinematography, sometimes at night, it was a little bit too dark, but, I mean, I guess for the horror element, but other than that, positive all around. I love it. Elizabeth Moss, keep doing stuff, keep being in more movies. This girl is going places. And yeah, it's one of my favorite horror films of all time. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It is in theaters. Invisible Man. Thank you guys for watching.